Hello and welcome to today's UE4 stream. My name is Cedric and I will today show you how to implement or integrate Steam into your fresh 4.17 UE. This one here. So to actually use Steam, we need to make sure that we launch the game as a standalone, because inside of the editor, Steam is deactivated. So let's see. I'm muted. I'm not muted. I quickly fix this. Is that better? Can you hear me now? Let's test the sound first. That's better? Audio settings are kind of problematic. So still a bit more. Yeah, let's do this first. That's more important. You should be able to hear me properly. Let's open the settings, and I hope this doesn't get too annoying. Is that better? In the meantime, again, my name is Cedric and welcome to today's UE4 stream. I'm going to show you how to integrate Steam and also how to get the Steam friend list into UFG, which is not so much coding work, but it's good to see and good to learn how to properly do this. Much better. Great. Okay, so let's go back to where I was before. And yes, there are weird names in my friend list. I'm sorry for that. I can't filter them. So we're gonna do something very simple. Let's start this up, and it needs to be started from a standalone version. We're just gonna create this, the Steam friend list. No interaction, just showing it. There are two things that I might not be able to show, depends on the timing. Maybe I'm fast enough, maybe not. One thing is querying the avatar, and the other thing is getting the game name. Okay, so but before we can use that, we need to make sure that Steam is actually working for our project. And for that, we need to do, hello SteamVR, for that we need to do three things. We need first to enable the Steam subsystem plugin. And you can see down here that I have the project, the working one already open. So if something goes wrong, we can quickly hop over there and see what's wrong. So this is a fresh 4.17 project. The only thing I did, let's quickly go back to C++. You will find, if you create C++ blank project, you will find game mode here. I removed it because we don't need the game mode right now. Remove the files, regenerate project files, and right click and build again. Or Control F5 to build and then start the engine without it being connected to the debug session from Visual Studio. Okay, so inside of the editor we head over to Edit, Plugins. And when we scroll down here we will find Online Platform. Here you can find all the subsystems. The one that we are interested in is Steam. So we click on Enabled and it wants us to restart, so let's quickly do that. Even though we want to probably close the editor. Okay, in the meantime, the second thing we want to do is we want to change the build.cs file. In that file you, okay, let me quickly close this. In that file you usually include modules, for example the plugins, and make sure that they are publicly included so that you can actually access the header files and all the functions. So let me quickly cheat a bit so it's easier. So what we need is the basic online subsystem, and we need online subsystem utils. And we can later also use Steamworks. Steamworks is the actual, let me zoom in a bit. Steamworks is the actual plugin or the actual UE4, not UE4, the actual Steam library that's needed for getting the avatar and the game name. But if we don't come to that, then we won't need it. But the project that we can download on the forum thread is the one that actually has the Steamworks integration in it too. And down here we also see that it wants us to uncomment this if we're using online features. So let's quickly do that. This is the private dependency. We have a public and a private. We could also just add it here if we want to. And we don't need slate. Okay. I'm going to quickly remove this here because I don't want to have the shared headers. And declare this so everything compiles faster. Okay. So this is all. You just need to add these two into, whoops. No, stop it. These two into your public dependencies and online subsystem into the private one. So what we want to create is the following thing. Let me quickly get the already working project. We're going to create these widgets later. And the main thing we want to create in C++ is this node. And this node is known as a latent function. And you already know that from, for example, I think the normal delay is one. Yes, it's always if you have this clock icon there, then you have a delayed function. Another one would be the already integrated create session node on all the other session nodes. How to do that is by extending from a specific function, specific class that UE4 already offers us. And this function is called the online blueprint callback proxy. So inside of our project, which I need to, oh wait, one additional thing, the third thing, the config file. So the config file inside of your project, hope you can read that. You go into your config folder and open the default engine. I zoomed a bit in here so you can see that better. I have the correct one already open. So first thing we need to do is change the game net driver that UE4 should use. By default, it uses the IP net driver. We wanted to use the Steam one. So we need to define the following, which is inside of our engine script and then the game engine class, we need to first get rid of all the net drivers that are already in the array, in the definitions. So net driver definitions, clear array. Also, I will later just copy paste the stuff over so I don't run into any typos. And then we want to add net driver definitions. Definition name is game net driver. The driver class we want to use is the Steam one, which means, let me remove this one, which is online subsystem Steam dot SteamNet driver. And then we can also enter a fallback class. So if that doesn't work, then we want to go back to the actual IPNet driver. So online subsystem, that scrolls automatically. Awesome. Online subsystem utils IPNet driver. Okay, let me maximize this. So that's the first thing. So we can use the actual net driver, so connecting and everything works. Then we tell him what net driver we want to use. I will copy paste that pretty quick. So the net connection class is the Steam net connection. That's also important. It could be that you find tutorials about integrating Steam that doesn't have that in there. That's because they might have been older. This works for 4.17. And allow downloads is just that you are not allowing them to download anything over it. I haven't worked with it, but I assume it's technically for letting your client download, for example, workshop items or so via the server connection. So if some server has a map and you join, can you download? I assume that's it. But we are not talking about allow downloads today. We are talking about just integrating it basically and then later getting the Steam friends. So now we need to actually define our online subsystem. So what we want to use. You can always leave this one in here. So default platform service null. That's the default one that offers you LAN and sessions inside of LAN. It doesn't give you any master servers, so you can't find servers online. That's why you want to use Steam. Also, this is not service. That's why I want to copy paste it later, so it's actually not doing that. This little semicolon here is for commenting. It's the same as this in code, because we don't want to use this. Now default platform servers, and now we want to use Steam. Then we can add a polling interval in milliseconds. That's basically how much milliseconds he has time to perform an async task, or how much milliseconds he's allowing it. Then we have voice. Is that the correct one? Voice notifications. Notification delta 0.2. That's for how long a person should not speak until, or since when data should not be sent until he gets set to not talking, basically. So how much time he has to just breathe and not talk before he gets shut down. And then we're gonna define the actual online subsystem Steam, or not define, but it's the settings, the config. We define config variables. So first, because the default one sets this to false, so we set it to true. Steam app ID, and that's always a thing that a lot of people, I don't know if everyone knows it, but a lot of people know that it exists, but not that they can do practically a lot with it, if not everything. They even have Steam achievements that you can use. So 480 is the test ID, and we also want to set the dev app ID, even though it's not that much important. 480. Later, if you have your own app ID, you need to change that, obviously. Then the game server query port, and that's the port that your server should answer to. That's for Steam, though. It's not the actual dedicated server, for example, or listen server. They run on 7777, so 4 sevens. And then we have B relaunch in Steam. We turn that off. That basically means if the game should be forced to launch in Steam if it's not already in there. So if you, for example, have Steam not open and you open the game, then should it open it in Steam again. Not so important for testing it outside of Steam, but it's later important if you have it in Steam. We add a basic game version. That's not so important. Then we have VAC enabled. VAC is, or VAC is the service from Steam, from Valve, that stops cheaters. So we just enable that. It's fine. VAllow, we're nearly done. VAllow P2P, peer-to-peer, packet relay. That simply means that if the peer-to-peer sockets, if the connection fails, then should it go back to the normal Steam relay. And the last thing is how much time is between a connection timeout of this peer-to-peer connection. The default one is just 90. Okay, and that's all you need. And now, excuse me, just copying this over, plus comments. The comments are also, if they're not in the file, then I'll make sure that they're in the upload files. And that's now the third thing we need to add, this whole file. Okay, so now, this is the wrong one. So now let me open this one again. Now we will actually start C++. To test if everything works, and I hope it does, we can also right-click your view project files, click on Launch Game. And if I didn't do anything wrong, then hopefully my game starts with a Steam overlay, and you can see these annoying names again. Yes, and there it comes up. It says to play community, and if you press your key, you can actually get into it. So Steam is added. We are playing Space War. That's the 480 app ID. Great. That's about integrating Steam. Very fast, very easy. Now, inside of this, we're gonna create something. We're gonna create a new map. And the maps folder, if you don't know, the maps folder should technically sit in your content folder, so 3.4 can properly query your maps. Inside of it, let's create quickly a new level, so we can later, let's just save it. We can later add a game mode. Do we actually need a game mode? No, we don't use a game mode, but we want to create the widget inside of of the level blueprint just for faster access. All right, test map, great. Now let's add our C++ class. Let me quickly check everything is still fine. No one is screaming at me for doing something wrong, I hope. Then inside of our add C++ classes dialog that you open, let me do that again. File, new C++ class. And in this dialog, you can click on show all classes. If you don't tick that combo box, toggle, then you only see the most common classes. But we want to see all classes. And now we type online blueprint call proxy base. And I will explain that thing in a second. Let's just yeah, we will stick to these folders. We could now do subfolders. We're going to do public private subfolder of our source. So we actually have proper header and CPP files in the private and public folder. U4 does that for you. And we call this, well, let me actually use the same name so I can cheat. Get Steam friends callback proxy base. Space is always missing in my memory. Okay, this might fail. It's totally fine. Now let's close this. And in here, even though we have these files, I'm going to quickly close this because I added things into the build file and I just want to make sure that everything works. So we right-click the Steam Friends your project file, click on Generate Visual Project Files. Hope that works. It does. So let's open Visual Studio again. Let's see the let's look at our new class. And yes, I'm using the trial version, I know. Let's close the build file. Also, if anything is too fast, don't worry, you can watch it again, and you can also just look into the project because it's uploaded, and you can see all the code with all the comments in it. I will not comment this code here, but just so you know, if we drag this over pretty quick, this is the actual files, and everything is properly coded in there, so you will see what you actually have to do. It will be all explained. All right, let's delete this here. And first of all, we need some additional includes here, but let me explain this proxy. What it does is you can override an activate function. We can quickly do that already. Yeah, I did not want to comment. So it's virtual void activate override. And let me make a quick comment, which is this is from the copy paste this from this interface or from this class. And we're going to do something inside of it to query our Steam friends. So right click, create implementation. That's the Visual Assist feature though, but you can just create it yourself otherwise. So let's create implementation. The copyrights. Here I might need to add the Steam friends header because I uncommented or I removed that build CS comment. Okay, so Steam friends is, or getting Steam friends, the same as creating sessions, and most of the other session and Steam things requires you to wait a bit on the answer. So you issue the call, you want to get something, the friend list. It takes a bit and then it responds back. And since we can't wait inside of the function, or we should not, we could, but that would probably make our game thread stuck. We will just wait on it and call another function over a delegate. And this function is something that the Steam subsystem plugin already tells you how it needs to look like. So that's the easy part. Let me quickly look what we should do first. Okay, the first thing you want to do is we create our delegate, and this delegate, let me see. So we can bind this in UE4 too, in blueprints too, but we will still just use it here. I will still make a dynamic multicast delegate, and we need one param. And we call this delegate later when the when the Steam call is actually done. So let me get this. Get Steam friends delegate. That's the name. You can see it in this tooltip that we now need to specify the first param. We only have one. We name this a constant T array, and it will tell me that I don't have f Steam friend because that's a custom struct that I need to create. And now we need to give it a name, and usually, also this needs to be a constant reference, sorry. Usually you are used to defining the name directly here, results, but when you declare delegate, you need to split it with a comma. So here's our delegate. Let's create two of them, because this whole thing can fail or it can succeed. And when we go back to our blueprint example, we see here on success and on failure. That's the same with the create session function. This can also succeed or not. And this top one here will call anyway. So when this construct goes in here, this will be directly called afterwards. So you can, for example, change the text to we are doing something right now, please wait. And then X seconds later, milliseconds, maybe it's a lag, so it takes a minute, success or failure gets called, and you can react to it. So we're gonna do public, and these need to be uProperty blueprint assignable. And blueprint assignable is usually that you can assign this multicast delegate to an actual event inside of the blueprints. Here it's not needed for that. Here it's just because it's needed for our blueprint call proxy to actually use these and then call them in your actual function. F get Steam friends delegate, and we call this on success. Could also call it differently, but that makes the most sense. And let's copy paste this pretty quick and make F get Steam friends delegate on failure. All right. Okay, these are the two that we want to call. Now let's head over. Let me see what's the best next thing to do. If you code something like this, you usually jump from function to function. I want to structure this a bit more. We need a few variables. So how this usually works is that you create this proxy, or this proxy gets created, and we want a static function for that, which we're gonna implement now. And the static function sets a few pointers or variables in general. And for us, this is the player controller. You can also, this whole proxy is not only for Steam. You can also use that for all other latent actions. If you want to do something that takes a bit of time for whatever reason, you can also do it. Also do that in there, and then you might need other variables that you need to pass. But for us, it's just a context object. If we actually need that, let me see. Well, we can still do it, and we need the player controller. So let's go down to quickly comment this a bit at least. Functions, public function, and this is gonna be a U function. It's blueprint callable. That's important because this is kind of resembling our node, even though it's not directly used. And for this not directly using, there's a meta parameter that we can use, which is called blueprint internal. We not have typo use only. Internal use only. Equal true. This means this node is not directly used inside of a blueprint, so you can't really call it. Sorry, it is used inside of a blueprint, but you can't really call it. It's not for calling it. This class uses it. And then we have a small thing that you maybe somewhere saw already, which is world context. In world context object. This is if you ever created the blueprint blueprint node, and you specify the world context object, which means this is an object that you need to query the world from, because maybe you can't do it, it's a static function and you don't have a world there, so then you pass it. And to not have this world context object showing up here, but just taking whatever class you're in as a pointer, you can use this world context meter by using the same name. You will see that as soon as I type the function that is a parameter. And it will vanish and do the stuff in the background. And now we can add a category, which is Steam Friends. And this is static, and we want to return the actual created instance of this proxy. So you get Steam Friends callback proxy is the return value. Get Steam Friends, and now we have a U object, which is the base class of usually everything in UE4. In world context object, and the second thing we want is class A player controller in player controller. All right. Let's use Visual Assist again, right click it and create implementation. If you don't have Visual Assist, you have to do this by hand, or at least use some other software or add-on you have installed. Okay, now these two we actually want to save somehow in here so the class can use it, so we need variables. So let's head over here, and we just need them inside here so we can make them private. So we make a weak pointer, because we just want to hold a weak pointer. It's an object though, object pointer. A player controller, and we call this simply player controller weak pointer. And the second thing we want is the U object world context object. Great. Let's see if we need anything else. Not yet, at least not for this step. Okay, so just to quickly go over it again, we created the static function and we created these two pointers. The static function will now fill them and then return a new instance of itself. So it's made for creating itself. So what we do is you get Steam callback Steam Friends call proxy base. We just call it you get Steam Friends. The proxy we want to create, and we make new object, and it's a you get Steam Friends. Nothing in the actual constructor. And now we'd say proxy, and we set the world context object to in world context object. We set the player controller weak pointer to the in player controller, and then we simply return the proxy. And even though you would think that now inside of this we would get this this proxy here as a variable, this whole function is only used internally, so you won't see it actually, even though this is the name it will take. It's a bit complicated, a bit of UE4 magic in the background. But it's really easy to create something like a latent function with it. Okay, this creates our proxy. And now let's see what we need next. I'm pretty sure I wanted to create a function library to it before we continue. Function library because we also want to later have functions like get Steam friend avatar, and that's actually not a latent function, so we do it and put it into a function library. If we don't get to it, then of course, as I already said, for the people who joined later, you will still be able to see how to get the avatar or the game name inside of the project we upload to the forum thread. Okay, let's go back to UE4. Let's close this pretty quick. That's the wrong one I closed. No one saw that. Let me see. Should this compile already? We will see. If not, then we make it compile. Live debugging is always good to learn. I just pressed Ctrl F5 to build, and after that start UE4 automatically. Let's hope my computer is... Nope. Let's see. Oh yeah, that makes sense. I never defined this. So that's just for the sake of being able to compile. Let's quickly comment this out. So the next step is inside of our function library, I want to go ahead and add a custom struct fSteamFriend that I used up here, and that's used for exposing everything. Let's quickly look what we do here. Cannot convert constant player to constant UObject. That's totally fine. That's UE4. Let me see why. Class A player controller. That's why I have it open here, so I can check back on things. Okay, let's see. What did I do wrong? Isn't it funny to debug code and you don't see the actual mistake? Because technically this shouldn't be a problem. Because this is an object pointer, and after all, player controller is also an object. Did I? Player controller T weak pointer, player controller T weak pointer. This is the exact same thing. Why is it not working? Okay, let's just skip this for now and open the project pretty quick. I hope it doesn't tell me that I need to compile the binaries right now. And let's add the function library pretty quick. We look at this later. Well, we are live backlogging it. Just all right. So file, new C++ class. We want to show all classes, and we want a blueprint function library. And we call this Steam Friends function library. Makes sense. Steam Friends function library. And we just put it into the same folder here. I know folder-wise I'm not doing my best here, but it's a demo project, so it's fine. Later you want to properly name your folders and put it to subfolders. Compiling will hopefully fail, because otherwise I would be confused. Alright, there's our function library that's usually used to expose static functions to UE4. Okay, so next thing we will learn is how to make a struct. That means use struct, and we make this a blueprint type. Blueprint type means that we can actually create a blueprint variable from it. That's rather important. Struct fSteamFriend, and open the brackets, and now we make generated use struct body. Generated use struct body. That's UE4 magic macros. Don't wonder too much. I need to admit I did not look into how these things work. I think no one actually does, despite maybe Ella. Okay, uProperty. Blueprint read only. And now we create all the properties that our Steam friend should have, which is, for example, display name, the real name, the status, is he online, she online, playing games, playing the same game, joinable, and so on. And we only want to make this read only. We don't want to have someone inside our blueprints be modifying it. And the category stays Steam friends. I'm going to copy that so I don't have to type it every time. First thing is an fstring display name. Then we have fstring real name. I'm not going to use all of them. I just use some of them later in the UG. Already over half an hour in, so I need to be speeding up a bit. We have the fstring status string. And so we can actually, that makes no sense to just type that. Let's just copy it in here. So we have B is online, B is playing same game, B is joinable, and B has voice support. Then we need the present state. And present is something that Steam uses as some kind of your presence, your are you actually online and all these things. It's all saved in there. Present state. I could also just autocomplete type, and we name this present state. And this is not going to be exposed to this is not going to be exposed to the blueprints, so we don't put the property on it. And we might not need it, but we also should save the unique ID of that player, because the unique net ID, because we can use this net ID later by just passing the Steam friend or just the net ID to our avatar or game name function, and we can easily use this to query all the data from this unique player, which is the Steam ID, the player Steam ID, if I'm not mistaken, unique net ID. Alright, and this will also obviously not compile. We need to include the following thing. Additional includes, which is include online presence interface, and this does our present state variable, and our underlinings are gone. I mean, some of them stay because IntelliSense is not so good with all these macros, and that's basically it. The other things I have here on my right side that you can't see right now is for later. And yeah, let's head over to, this is not interesting, not interesting, not interesting. Let's head over to our callback proxy, and here we can now do, oops, also additional includes, and this time we will include our Steam friends. It's probably not visible yet. Function, it is. Wow. Function library. Now we can uncomment this because now our fsteam friend is declared, and now we have these again. So let's remove this too. And that's so far. Let me look into the header file of our function library. It correctly included Steam friends. That's good because it didn't do it last time when I worked on it. Okay, let's just quickly checking if everything is still fine. It's still fine. Okay. So next thing we want to do. So the generated body inside of our uClass is a smaller form from the uClass body. And since we created the uClass here and we want a specific, some of you know it, specific constructor, we're going to change this into uClass body. And now it will define, sorry, it will declare our constructor already, and our constructor looks like this. I don't need to declare it in the header file, that does the macro for me. So you get Steam, and we have this good old f-object initializer. Could technically also do it with the normal, with just the basic constructor, I assume. But one golden rule is to never change a running system, to never run a changing system, obviously. Object initializer. Super object. Can you just give me that? I'm not so good with typing apparently. All right. And in here we will later bind our function, our delegate. So let me see what's the next good thing to do. We want to implement the activate function. So activate is called internally from this node, and activate is actually the thing where we want to call our code. So we need our player controller because for reading the friend list we need the local controller ID, and the player controller has a pointer to the local player, and that has a pointer to our local, or the pointer it has our local controller ID. So player controller weak pointer, and since this is actually a weak pointer and not an actual pointer, we need to check it with isValid, .isValid. And then we can do iOnlineFriends pointer friends interface, and in here we get online get friends interface, and that will give us a pointer to our friends interface. Really easy, right? but we want to check our pointer again so nothing crashes. So hit this auto arrow and is valid. And now that we actually have our friends interface, we can ask it for the friends list. So we make a constant uLocalPlayer, and we need to include the local player later because otherwise it doesn't compile. Player controller weak pointer get local player. Right? Great. So we're getting our local player. Now we have the friend interface, and we call read friend list. This is not directly getting it; it's reading it, and then later we can get it from the friends interface. So the friends interface will actually save it for us, and then we can read it or get it from it. We need the local player get controller ID. And the list name is something, it says it's an F string, but we actually have e friend lists, and we need to turn this to a string. So we use the static function toString, and we put another e friend list in it. And here we can see default, in-game and session players, in-game players, online players. We're just taking default for now because we want to have everyone, even the ones with the weird names in my list. And the last thing it wants is a f on read friend list complete delegate. And that's one that we need to create, and that's the one that gets called later. I will type it in already. On read friends, and hopefully no typo, friends complete delegate. Can't find it right now. And down here we go ahead and say tarray. This is like when the pointers are not valid. Let's put a return here, because we don't want to call this down here. So if this is not valid, if we didn't pass both of these valid tests, we do f Steam friends because we need a dummy array. And we just do on failure broadcast, and on failure is the delegate we created earlier, and we broadcast just Steam friends. So this is just an empty array we give back. So this is all we do in our activate function. Let's make sure that this one here is not wide and unrecognized. So we already read that it should be the following type: f on read friend list complete, and that auto completes f on read friend list complete, and we call this on read friends complete delegate. And now it's not white anymore. Great. But this is just a delegate. We need to bind a function to it that actually gets called. That's the next thing we're going to create. A function that we will bind to this delegate. And this function, we can directly see this. We could right click the f on read list complete and pick definition, but apparently this only works if, I don't know, if I have the source on it or so. I will give that away. You can probably also Google it, what kind of parameters your function needs. It will also, if you don't have the right ones, it will give you an error and then you can see them. So we need the following function. It returns nothing, it's just void. We call it onGetSteam friends complete, and it will give us back, that's kind of important because we want to read the same friend list from the same user, our local username or ID. It gives us a boolean if this whole thing was even successful. It gives us the friend list name that we actually, let's call list name, that we queried, because we want to use that to query the same one from the interface. And we also get an error string in case we have done anything wrong or something went wrong. Alright, right click, create implementation. This lands above the activate function, that's fine. It's because it's declared over it or above it. And we are already binding this in our constructor. The constructor, for those who are not familiar with C++, is called when we create an instance of this class. So right at the beginning, and we make on read friends delegate, and the same as we call the super function. Super is just we call the parent implementation. F on read friend list, create u object, and this will return us the actual delegate, and this because we want to refer to this object, this single instance of this node, of this class, and we bind the function of this class on get Steam friends complete. Easy as that. Now what do you want to do when we actually complete this? That's the next step, and also code-wise the last one. I hope that it compiles at some point. We're going to need to do a bit of debugging, so let's go through this. First thing we're going to do is we create an empty f Steam friend array. It's called Steam friends. Then we check were we successful. If we are or were successful, we are going to get the online friends pointer again. It's the same one we already asked for getting or reading the friend list. The same way online get friend list interface or friends interface, sorry, get friends interface. As always, please make sure to check your spelling first and then your pointers. Can you please make this a dot? Thank you. If our friends interface is actually valid, so the module in the background is obviously loaded, we need to create the following t-array, t-shared reference. That's a shared reference. Shared reference, please. It's a shared reference pointer from or shared reference from UE4 type. You can read more on the actual documentation of UE4 about all the shared pointers and shared ref. That goes a bit too deep into UE4 right now. So we need an f-online friend. That's a class that UE4 already gives us. Thing is, the variables in there are not exposed to blueprints, so we make it a bit more user-friendly. And this is our friend list. And let me move my mouse away because it constantly pops up the tooltip. So, friend interface. Friend interface. Friend interface already read our Steam list, so now we want to get the friend list, get friends list, and we want to pass in the local username, the list name, the area we want to put this in. So this is actually the outside of it. So that's where this array gets filled. We pass this by reference. So after this is called our array, this one here has our data, hopefully. If you don't have any friends, then yeah, it's probably empty. Okay, now we iterate over this by a for each loop, because that's easier. T-shared ref, f online friend, and friend list. Oh, sorry, friend list. So we take every friend from this friend list. Do I have a typo? No. And now we need to fill in our dummy struct that we created. So the actual f Steam friend. First of all, we create an f online user presence, and we will get the present from this friend because we're going to use that a lot. Friend get present. We might want to make sure that it's valid, but yeah, we just say the friend is valid for now. So now we create our dummy struct f Steam friend. Call this a Steam friend. And I will show the first 2 to 3 lines, and then I will just copy paste it because it's too much typing for the stream. Then it will be boring for you. I hope it's not boring right now. So the display name is friend. Get display name. Then we want to have, what's next, the real name. I actually don't know where the real name in Steam is stored. I hope I have mine not in there. People could find me. Get real name. And then let's do the status string. Presence.status.status string. And let's copy paste the rest because that's now a bit repetitive. You see, that's quite a lot. These are the ones we added. So we have in the presence, are we online? Are we playing a game? Are we playing the game we're actually in, which is for this one Space War? Can we join this player? Does he have voice support? And we do cast from this state to an int32 and then to the eOnline presence state that we have here, what the type of the variable. And we get the user ID and save it. And last but not least, we're going to do steam friends.add, and we add our Steam friend. Don't give me such big pop-ups. And that looks fine so far. Okay, and down here, after our for loop, not inside it. So if everything worked, we do on success. That's not on success. On success dot broadcast Steam friends. So we actually broadcast this, and this will call. I don't have it open anymore. This will call the on success exec on our node. But we also need to make sure that we call on failure if this all didn't work. We're also gonna pass Steam friend. I should stop auto completing Steam friends because at this point it's probably empty. All right. So to recap, because coding is a bit complex, inside of our constructor we are creating a new object for our delegate, and we put in the pointer to this actual instance and our on get Steam friends complete function that we just implemented. Then we have a static function to create our node or proxy. This is the name is taken from this node, so this is the name you actually see inside of your. Sorry, the name is taken for the node. This is the same inside UE4 editor, but it's used internally, so you don't really use or see the return value. We create the proxy here, we fill in our variables that we need. You can also have different variables, and we return the proxy. That's it. Just a static variable function that creates your proxy. Then we have, let's scroll past this, the activate function. It's a function that's already coming from our proxy. We override it, and in there we do what actually should be done when our node is called. So we get our controller, we check that the controller is actually valid. We get the friends interface, we check that the friend interface is valid. We get the local player, and we ask our friend interface to read the friend list. So it loads it into its own. I actually don't know where it's put. Probably a tmem or something. And if it didn't work here already, so if something failed here already, then we're just gonna broadcast on failure and everything is done. But if it worked, then after so and so many seconds or so, our on get Steam friends complete function will get called, bind through this delegate, and we create an empty array. We get our friends interface. We ask the friends interface this time to get the friend list that earlier read. We're going to iterate over it, and we're going to fill our fSteamFriend struct, which I declared in this function library. Right? Great. Let me quickly check if I'm not running too much out of time. Probably not. Okay, so a lot of red in there, and probably tons of errors now if I try to compile. So let's hope that this works out. Otherwise, I need to see what's wrong. Oh yeah, local. First thing, it will actually tell us that the local player up here is missing. Second thing is probably, yes, let's have a look at this. Don't trust the error list, go to the output. Okay, f on reads friend list, that's already missing. Let's see why. Okay, so for the proxy we need a few additional includes. I haven't done them yet, so let's go over them step by step. One is our online subsystem utils. That's the, that's the module that we earlier put into our build file. Subsystem utils, checking. What's in there is, for example, these f on read friends list complete, for example. So every utility thing that you need to perform these calls. And the second thing we need is the online presence interface again. And let me not lie, why did I put it there? I think we're using it in the header and the CPP file, so I could also actually put it in here, but yeah. All right, let's try it again. You could, for example, also UE4 is sadly missing an update session function in the blueprint base. You could, for example, expose your own with this proxy, where you just do the same thing they do for create and just expose it like this. Local player is missing. I already announced that, so let's include that. We need to go into the engine subfolder though, and there should be local player. Great, let's try it again. Ah, great. Now I'm happy. Okay, now because I pressed Control F5, it instantly starts my project. And there we go. So let's do this a bit quicker now. Blueprints, because blueprints is hopefully everything clear. You can use it already. So we create a widget, actually. We make it widget, call this friend list. And this is our main friend list. So this will just be a box that holds each of the single friends. So how we do that? Vertical. Now let's make it border first so we actually see something. Anchor the border to the right corner, anchor to the right side. Put the alignment to 1 on X and to 0.5 on Y. Now put these to 0. Let's make this 500, 600, 600. And the size, let's make it 900. 800. Oh, that's good. We don't want any padding inside of it, and the background color, let's make that 0.3, 0.5. Great. And let's give it a bit of distance, minus 50 on the X. Great. And inside of this border, we want to have a scroll box. So, because we probably have more friends than this vertical box that we put in here will, how do you say that in English, can actually display. Let's do it like this. So the scroll box is in here. Let's see, it's already on fill, great. And we put a vertical box in there. So UMG is all about putting boxes into boxes. And this one here you see is put it to the top because this will be filled soon, or will expand as soon as we fill something in there. And we name this our, can I type? No, friend list. And we make it in its variable so we can use it. Now let's first create another widget, which is W friend list entry. I hope this is not too fast because I kind of do blueprints a bit faster. I hope you are good in blueprints so far. You can watch, for example, Celeste's stream. She's awesome in UMG if you want to learn something about that. So we put this from fill screen to desired on screen because we're going to make this a bit smaller. Let's use a size box because we want to limit it to a specific size. We want to override width and height. Width is 500. And actually, if I think about it, let's make the border pretty quick. Oh, it's already 600. Let's make it 520. Let's put 10 padding on each side. So size box, and let me quickly think what we did in there. We want the horizontal box in there. Then we put an image in the horizontal box. And let me actually 50, 100. And put a size box around this image. Size box. So we limit it to be exactly 100 by 100. And maybe give this 110. And give this a padding of 5 in every direction. So it's a bit more centered. So this is a horizontal box, so we go from left to right. Next thing we want to enter is a vertical box. So the vertical box will be here, set it to fill, so it fills the rest of it. And we put in 3 texts in here. 1, 2, didn't click, 2, and 3. And let's quickly make them a bit more beautiful by going to font and make them light and make them a bit smaller. And maybe pep them to an art. Yeah, let's make them fill. It's probably better. Can I do fill on? Yeah, it's down here. Alright, this will be our username. This will be our status. And this will be game. And game might be something I don't know if I will manage that. We are an hour in. I hope that we get everything shown now. So image and status, probably not. I will look into it, but I don't know how fast I'm at this. Because it's a bit more deeper C++ with actual memory stuff in it. Okay. Now we head over to our graph, and since we made it a blueprint type, we can now make Steam friend and search in the variable type for Steam friend. There it is, our structure. Let's pull that in, break it pretty quick, and see everything is there. Great. So I'm gonna really quickly just click on Steam. I hope not. I'll pretty quickly open the second project so I can check that I don't do anything wrong. We don't need this, we don't need this, we only need the construct later. What we already can do is we can go back to our designer, click on the username, and go here to the bind section of our text. And then we find our sub-object properties, Steam Friends, and we can click on display name, and this will do everything we need. It's already there. And yep, that's the other project. That's pretty fast. Open that to see what we want to do here. Okay, construct is only for, yeah, I remembered. Construct is just for the avatar. Do anything cool. Despite that, this is bound. Alright. Okay, so to set the status, this is the only other thing we do. We go to bind and we actually create a binding. This will create a function. Set status text. We'll rename this. And here we can return the text we actually want to display at this point. And so what we can do is we get our Steam friend and we break this struct. And now, since it's a custom struct, we can also head over the left side to details, expand this, and remove pins that we don't want. And since it's a status one, we just want playing it online. And now we use two branches. If we are online, actually, if we are in-game, because we can be online and in-game, and online will already trigger it, and in-game will never be displayed. So if we are playing, we say we are in-game. If we are not playing, and also if you hold B and click, then you can create branches pretty quick if you don't know that already. So if we are online, we're gonna say we are online, and we're gonna return nothing if he's offline. I actually, one thing I don't know, I need to admit, I don't know if that maybe already is a question. Now that you see it, I don't know how to. Let me show you this. Look at what is why? Sorry. So what I don't know how to do is how to do the last online 6 hours. There's probably somewhere that you can query that from Steam, from the library. I don't find it inside of the UE4 thing yet. It's most likely inside of the already implemented Steamworks library that you can just use Steam directly instead of using the online subsystem interface. So we do this, and now we head over to our friend list, and we want to fill this friend list. So we go to the event graph, go to the construct, and here we can now call get Steam friends. And this is the node we created. So this is definitely not the old project, that's still here, so I'm not playing tricks here. We want to give it a player controller. And now we have on success and on failure. Failure doesn't just interest us at all, so we do this here, and now I'm gonna look into this so we can do that a bit faster. First of all, let's promote this to a new variable so we don't have any, let's call it just friends. So we don't have any wires crossing, and make sure that it auto connects to this top one, make sure it does not do that. So we only want to get it on success. Then we're going to use a sequence spawned with holding S and clicking shortcut. And now I'm going to do a bit of copy paste for the code. You could do this by creating multiple of these Steam friend latent function and just passing a different, oh sorry, not multiple of these Steam friend, this node here, but passing it another variable. Let's go to the code pretty quick. So you could do in here, you could pass it here a custom struct for your friend list name, or just the friend list name as a text. Another struct in enum, sorry, custom enum or the text. Enum is better because then your other developers who work on the project can't mistype it. And then you save that here, and later when you call activate down here, you just pass it here. And then you can, for example, just query the online people. Since we query everyone, we do some ugly copy pasting now. So for each loop, go over each of these entries. Make sure you straighten your wires, looks better. I'm gonna break this. We're gonna disable everything that we don't need. And the first thing we want to display are the ones who are playing. So we go over it and everyone who's playing, and yes, this is not good coding, just iterating 3 times over it, but it's showing how the code works, that's more important. Create widget, and we have our second widget, list entry. We take the same owner. And now you notice that I did one single mistake. There is no Steam Friends node here yet. So let's go back to friend list entry and go to our Steam Friend list and click on a Steam Friend struct. More thinking, less talking too fast. Instance editable and expose on spawn. Compile and save. And let's redo this. I did not. Why is that not working? Okay, wait, let's redo this. It was working, it was hiding behind it. I knew that. Stop laughing. There, and we connect our Steam friend to it. We get our friend list, and we call add child on it. Remember, the friend list is the vertical box. And double click the wire to create a rewrite node. Right click straight, right click straight. And just for making it a bit cleaner to read on the stream, like this. Okay. And now we're gonna copy paste this. And yes, that's not good. I know. Cannot say it often enough. Let me copy paste this another time. So this one here, let's move this a bit back. This one here should show all of our online players who are not actually playing. So we can already assume that the player who's playing is online. So we don't really need to check that. So let's do a bit of logic here. So it's not playing and it's online. Straighten this. If that's true, then we add these. These are all the online players. Guess I have problems with letting these not be straight. And this one here should be everyone who's offline. So that's pretty simple. Let's move this back a bit. Let's move this back a bit. Thank you. Get not on it. Straight. And these are all the ones who are not online. And so the first thing you will notice now, and I said that already once, let's go to our maps. One thing we need to do, project settings, maps and nodes, set this new map everywhere. Editor server is not really used right now, but yeah. Because otherwise our launch or our standalone will not start with the correct map. So in this map, let's go to the open level blueprint, and you will soon notice that we need to start it in standalone. Create widget, get player controller, and we create our actual friend list. We let's promote it to a variable, friend list, add it to the report. See, order is not really important right now. Set input mode so we can use our mouse to scroll. Lock always, because I like to be trapped in my own viewport and then pressing Shift F1 the whole time. And set show mouse cursor. Remember that this should actually show it already, but okay, that was a bit fast. So on begin play in our map, create the widget, save it, add it to the viewport, set the input mode, use the saved widget to set it in focus. Not really needed right now, but it's a good habit. And show the mouse cursor. So let's click on play, and you will see the friend list, but no friends. The easy realization is that Steam is not active, because it's not active inside of our editor. So what we do is, to test Steam, we go to our folder, we right click our project file and click on launch. Launch. Okay, Steam Friends. And there we go. Great, right? This is to the text block, and something didn't work out with our other thing. There's this guy, that name I will not read. So I have a few problems still. That's another account of mine apparently. So let's quickly hop back into the widget, which is the entry widget, I think. Let me also check Discord for someone is yelling at me and I'm not reading it. Okay, I already got pinged. Great. Then let's do this a bit faster. Set status text. Online. Was that just whatever? Let's do in-game set friend status text. This is in fact doing the same thing. This should work. Let's put this to nothing right now. Maybe it wasn't saved. Yeah, Cortana did listen to me. Oh, interesting. She also wants to learn how to make the game friend list from Steam. We're gonna wrap this up in like the next 8 minutes or so. We are basically through it. I would love to show how to make the avatars, but don't worry. You can already see that the names are here. These are the same people in my friend list. That's the recently played ones. The same people here. So these are also the ones that are playing. Working, gone, tell them. These are the first ones that are playing, and after this, it's not showing the name correctly. I don't know why now, but it makes no sense to debug this right now because you have the full working project here. So let's close this, and let's, in these last minutes, maybe go over the project that works so you learn a bit more. This is all commented. So last 5 to 8 minutes, launch game. So this is what you can download. I even added a bit of color to it. People who came in a bit later into the stream haven't seen this maybe. So here you can see is playing, is online, and at the bottom they are offline. And the friendless code, I created a static function I can show you for loading the Steam friend avatar, and there's also one for the game. Let's look at this in our code. Function library, that's the wrong code. I haven't zoomed in here yet. So I created 2 new things. I created this enum because you can actually create exec from enums, which is really helpful if you just want to set an exec and set an enum and want to call the exec instead of having a boolean or something you check. I created enum for the size of our avatar, and I have these 2 functions. And yes, they are available inside of your project you can download. And what we do here is we use the actual Steam API, so that's what we include here. And if we scroll a bit down, so this is just getting what size we want. We get the image, which is image size, sorry. We get the image as RGBA data. So this is actually height times width times 4 uint8 pointer. So this is really just byte data. And then we do some magic with transient hue texture, and later we return that. It's too much to go over now. That's why I rather would maybe I answer it more roughly instead of the forum itself. And Steam Friend Game is similar. We use the Steam API. We get the Steam Friend ID as bytes, as uint64 bytes. It's the actual Steam, also called Steam Friend ID or so. And then we get Friend Game and use the buffer to, like, this is a UTF-8 code. Sorry, UTF-8 variable, just an int, and we convert that over. Sorry, character, not an int. While I'm talking, and we limit it to 512 characters. I don't think there's actually a name that's longer. Okay. Then let me see if we have any questions so far. I lost track of my probably. Why do you indent your property members? Ella already answered that. Visual Studio does it automatically, and if I try to undo it, it sometimes redoes it. Maybe the bug is that he hasn't included the player controller. Okay, that's the other bug that we saw, that the this part here was not properly casting. It's probably because of some header I was missing and that was included during the thing. We don't need to actually include the player controller header because that's in the core minimal in. Do I have registered to Steamworks in order to use Steam integration even for testing training? No, you do not. You can use, and let's open this thing here. You can use the 480 test ID. You can just put that in and can use that. And you can also, if you Google a bit for the 480 test ID, because that's not UE4 related, that's actually Steam related. If you Google a bit, you will find information about what this 480 test ID actually gives you. For example, what achievements can you test? And I think it even has cards you can use. The only downside to this is that if you return sessions, so if you search for actual game sessions, you will find tons of sessions of other games that equally to you try this. It's not even UE4 games, it's everything. And that means that you sometimes will have really trouble to actually get your session online. But as soon as you swap that out with your own Steam app ID, it will instantly work. Then all the problems of way too many session results are gone. Despite that, yes, you can't change the achievement and so on, but it's only for testing. You don't have to pay, so that works. Isn't there also presence info for away as well? That's a good question. That's one of these things. It could be that it's hidden inside of the Steam API, but let's look. Presence dot. We have bvoice 7 online playing status. It could be that it's the present state, although that translates not good currently. Not the state. Where is it? The status. One last thing. Yeah, status. It might be hidden in here. If I find it, I will post it into the forums below the forum thread, the event thread. Yeah. Despite that, there are no other. Yes, lots of noise. There are no other questions. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was not too complicated or too fast. If you liked it, I hope I can give you more Steam stuff in the future, stuff that is more complex. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for tuning in, and have a great evening.